This IEM was number 1. Really? Hello and thank you for clicking on this video. I'll be sharing my experience on an IEM that was once on Crinical's number 1 spot in his list before the big reset, which catapulted the brand and this IEM to superstardom, the Thieaudio Monarch MkII. This is an IEM with 1 dynamic driver, 6 balanced armatures, and 2 EST coming in at $999 US. Again, sure, $1 cheaper from calling it $1,000. Let's all live in denial, people. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is to understand through this video why this IEM was at the top of the list. But before we begin, as always, if you've been enjoying my content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and turn that notification bell, because my next video will be the Battle of the Monarchs. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's talk about unboxing. If you've seen my unboxing experience on the Monarch Mark III, then it's pretty much identical for the Monarch Mark II. But unfortunately, I lost my unboxing footage from a while ago, so just showing a preview of the things you'd get. Apart from the interchangeable ear tips, you get the Thieaudio case and interchangeable connections, which comes in 2.5, 3.5 and 4.4mm terminations. And it's a simple remove and plug in mechanism with a notch so you know where to align. The cable itself has this cloth-like material going in a triple weave, and it comes in this dark brown color, which I'm personally not a fan of, but it fits the theme. The terminations, splitter, much like the IEMs themselves, are big and chunky, and it just adds more weight, and I can sometimes feel it pulling the IEMs down a bit every time I'm adjusting it. It's sturdy, it does the job, but I personally don't use it often due to its weight. Speaking about the designs of the IEMs themselves, it has become an iconic look. This wood-like texture finish with a light brown hue with some orange tint to it, it's gorgeous. You've got the Thieaudio logo in silver on one side, and there's not much more I need to say about the looks of the IEM. It catches your attention in the right way, and it's something I'd be excited to show people, and then they'd be running away after seeing the sheer size of this IEM, because this IEM is notoriously chunky, and it has become infamous because of it. While it may have some gentle grooves and curves, I feel its biggest culprit is the rounded and pushed out edge on this face of the IEM is what's applying a bit of pressure, especially for my ears, and even for me personally, I do feel that part of my ears stretching, and after a while I do find myself taking these off for a breather. This IEM has become not only a reference for sound, but also for chunky fits. If you can fit this IEM in your ear, chances are you're going to be able to fit many other chunky IEMs at the higher tiers. Now with that all out of the way, let's talk about the one thing we all came here for. What kind of sound does the Monarch Mark II present that puts it at its place at the top of a lot of people's list? For bass, this is where I feel personally where the Monarch Mark II is lacking. There's some rumble coming in from the deep end, and I feel it's the feature of the bass presentation rather than the mid bass, but the bass note is a little bit on the flatter side for me. The punch and slam is at informative levels, which translate to bass that I can hear in the track, but it's not something that keeps me engaged. I would personally prefer more bass, especially at this price point, but then again it's presenting a different presentation than my personal preference, and it's a track accompaniment type of bass, and the sub bass is giving it that illusion of texture. But if you're a bass head, then this is not going to satisfy your thirst. But what it does do is help pave the way for the other frequencies to make their stand in music. For mid-range, the way the lower frequencies are tuned gives way for the mid-range to come through. It's lean and it's clean. I do feel the vocals is missing a bit of that note weight, and if you're looking for something warmer, then the Monarch Mark II isn't the IEM to go for. However, one thing about the Monarch series is in its positioning between the vocals and the background music. The vocals are still the highlight and stands in front of the background music, yet the background music doesn't lose its presence. You can still hear all the accompaniment in the track, but it doesn't overwhelm or take the spotlight away from the singer. For treble, there's enough highs in the treble, and even though for me personally generally they sound quite smooth, I'd still put a very mild caution for treble sensitive people, but as an overall, it's enough to give vocals some sense of clarity, and there's some treble extension to give that illusion of air, which is often attributed to instruments like trumpets, but they do sound a little further away for me personally, so it's not as present as some IEMs I've heard. I feel if there's a word I'd use to describe this area, it would be safe. It's not too sparkly, it doesn't have anything that would stab anyone, it just has enough, but it's never quite there. For technicalities, the left and right imaging is great. You can pinpoint the positions of sound between the left and right ear. There's a lot of macro and micro details coming through in the presentation, and it's probably due to how the overall sound is presented, with the lower emphasis of the lower frequencies, which allows room for the details to come through, as mentioned earlier, though it's a little bit smoothed out, so the details isn't as sharp in its attack. Hi-hats, snares, cymbal strikes, it's missing that crisp, distinct sound. It's leaning towards giving you a more relaxed presentation where it doesn't envelop you with all the details, but it's there. There's enough space between each sound. The soundstage is neither too wide nor too closed in, but it has some depth to it. You've got the rumble from the sub bass laying the foundation, different instruments from different positions in the mid-range, then the singer comes in and makes itself present. Not much more I can say other than it ticks a lot of boxes. For power, on my Hi-Fi EF400 I get to about 9 o'clock on the dial. So to sum it all up, the Thieaudio Monarch MkII is another IEM that gives a preview to what the Summit-FI level IEMs sound like. For me personally, the Monarch MkII takes bits and pieces of sound characteristics from different IEMs that are superior without ever quite reaching to that level, packages it all together, and presents itself in a more affordable package. The sub bass doesn't reach as deep as the Fat Freak Maestro SE, it doesn't have the punch and slam or even the bass quality from the Sony Z1R, and it doesn't have the amount of details as the 64Audio U12T. And while I don't have the Elysian acoustic Annihilator, based on people's personal experience, I'm betting the Treble wouldn't be able to compete with the Annihilator either. But here's the thing, the Monarch MkII is being brought to compare with IEMs that are 2 or even 3 times more expensive, and that enforces my statement that the Monarch MkII is a window to the world of Summit-FI IEMs. The Thieaudio Monarch MkII, through my own personal experience, is the jack of all trades but is a master of none. I still wish it had a bit more mid-bass though. However, this is based on one man's experience and I'm curious to know yours. Do you own the Monarch MkII and what is your experience like? Is it your number one as well, or share with me what is your number one IEM in your list? Comment below, let me know, and with that all said, thank you all very much for watching and stay tuned for the next video where I'll be featuring the ultimate showdown between two monarchs. Don't forget to turn that notification bell on. Anyway, see all of you in the next video, take care.